What is the secret to a successful marriage? Partnership or perfection? We'll find out more right after this.
Let's talk about love and marriage the way that God intended. A life experience, here we share it. The No Fruit Podcast. Tune in from any platform. No Fruit Podcast. We'll help your spirit transform.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the No Fruit Podcast. I am your host, Kafi. Maurice isn't with us today. He's not feeling well, so I'm going to try to hold things down all alone, but he's still with me in spirit. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about what it means to have a successful marriage. Is it partnership or is it perfection? A lot of times we seem to think that marriage and a relationship is perfection. We look at having the perfect relationship, the perfect spouse. It starts off with the perfect wedding day, right? But that's not always the case, that we need to lean on perfection. And sometimes leaning on perfection can lead us to a tricky situation, because we can get hurt in that manner when we think about perfection and we're trying to get things perfect and we're trying to represent and be a perfect person for our spouse. It makes it difficult, and it can be a very tricky way to lean into marriage and to lean into any relationship when you're leaning for perfection. But when you think about it and you think about maybe leaning towards partnership instead and working things out together as a unit and not leaning towards perfection. So let me go into this a little bit more. So what are some things that we can do to kind of lean away from perfection and lean more into partnership? So one of the things that we can do is to cultivate our mindset. It is a mindset shift from thinking of that perfect wedding day, thinking of that perfect marriage, the way that it is on television and in movies. It's not going to happen that way. Not every day. Some days will certainly feel like it's perfect and that it's a movie setting and that everything is just the way that you want it to be. However, it's not always going to be that way. And I want to share with you all that it's okay that it's not going to be perfect. And I'm coming from my own experience of 24, almost 25 years of weddedness, and it has not always been perfect. We've had some ups and some downs. We've had some really rough moments over these years, but we've learned from them, and it's taken some time to even get to the point to even learn from the lessons, like when you're in the midst of it, of a down moment, you don't know that it's a blessing. You're just kind of upset about it or trying to get out of it. But when you look back, you can understand that it was a blessing and that it's all built up for the glory and it's all making you better. And at the end of the day, I guess that makes it perfect. But understanding that marriage is a partnership. So again, understanding the mindset and that we have to kind of think about us and not me. Growing up as a child, it's always me, mine. I always go back to the cartoon. I think it was Looney Tunes when one of the characters was going, mine. So a lot of times we grow up that way, that we think of ourselves first. We think of what do I want to do? What do I want to get accomplished? And that's ingrained in us from so many places. When you grow up, you're asked, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do in this? And you're asked these things, and you walk life out thinking of yourself. And that's okay up until a certain point. When you realize that, hey, I do need to connect with someone else and that it's not all about me, that I can't get through life all on my own, that I do need others. And that's great in that as well. So one of the things that we need to think about as well is that it's not just about us, and that it is not just about me, excuse me, it is about us, and that we have to think about that. And it's a mindset shift. So how do we shift our mindset? We begin to analyze, well, why are we here? Why are we in this relationship? Why are we in this marriage? And it'll help you understand a little bit better that it's not just about me, that my spouse, my partner, my coworker is not here just to satisfy my needs, but I have a part in the overall theme, the overall vision of things. And then you'll be able to understand the togetherness, and that it is in us, and it's a group thing, and the connectivity will be there. So an example of that is, Maurice and I would do certain activities alone, but it's for some reason when you do it with your partner or with someone else, it gets done a whole lot easier. So at times, this partnership goes into beyond different activities. So I can think of, it's not a gender role activity for him to clean the car. So I will go out and assist with that, and it lightens the load, and we both get a joy out of it, and becomes a partnership in that regard. I've even helped with lawn work, and he's helped with cleaning around the house. So we all do those things at times in partnership and in a togetherness. And I think that helps to build a stronger bond. I think it helps to create connectivity and oneness. So if it's more so aligned with me and independence, then we lose sight of that connectivity and that connection that we could really, really have with our spouse. One of the other things that I want to talk about a little bit is sharing in decision making and problem solving. That, in order to create a partnership, one has to think about how you're making decisions. Who's leading that and who's not leading it, and how do you get to that point? Are you sitting down every night? Are you sitting down once a week to talk about decisions? Or do you just kind of let things go? Through our years of marriage, Maurice and I had not always sat down and talked about decisions, and things were kind of done differently. Maybe when a situation came up, we handled it as those situations arose. And he would usually call and say, hey, let's talk about these things. And we would sit down and talk them through, come up with a solution, and move through and with those things. But recently in our relationship, we seem to meet like once a week. And it's almost, I kind of mirror it to corporate America, where you're kind of meeting with your one-on-one with your supervisor. So it's not in a situation where one is subordinate to the other, but it gives us a chance to sit down and kind of connect one-on-one with what's been going on in our life and what things we are planning towards the next week or the next month. And we get to kind of really, really deep dive into those goals and deep dive into our lives and what's going on and what decisions need to be made in order to move our life forward. I feel as though if I could give anybody that advice, I think that has been one of the greatest things that we have been able to do recently is to sit down and do that on a weekly basis. And sometimes it follows up with prayer. And sometimes it just follows up with just, us holding each other because it's a deep conversation that we have. And sometimes we just, roll out and just everything is just great because we've been able to discuss things that we have happened the previous week. And then we're able to look at things that are going to happen and be able to make those decisions together. Me, myself, I don't like making a whole lot of decisions. I like to, kind of give it off to somebody else. So, but when we sit down together, it allows me that time and that good space to be able to share my thoughts openly. And then we're able to discuss, well, if this, then that, if that, then what? So we're able to talk about things. And Maurice is so great with being such a big picture thinker, that he's able to look at things down the line and say, well, here's where things are and how, or how things could be. And I'm one to say, like, here's where things are. How are we going to get to where you want things to be? And we're able to make those decisions very well, I think, because of how we have progressed our relationship and that mindset changing to being okay to sit down and talk about things. And being okay with, hey, even if we don't agree, that we've been able to talk about it openly. And that leads us to problem solving, because sometimes, the problems don't get solved, and that's okay as well. That you kind of table those and then put them on the table until the next time you meet, that everything doesn't have to get solved and resolved within the 30-minute episode. I think a lot of times we come up with TV where things were kind of handled in the 30 minutes that we were watching the TV show, or the 60-minute episode, and everything kind of is sealed with a bow at the very end, and you move on to whatever the next show is, or you wait around to the next week. But the next week is a whole nother issue or a whole nother problem, and it's not necessarily carried on the way that it is in real life. But in real life, it's okay to not have an answer at the end of the day, and to not agree at the end of the day, but not let that hold you to a point where you're upset with your spouse. Because again, that goes back to everything ain't going to be perfect. But again, within the partnership, understanding what everyone brings to the table, what their strengths are, and moving forward in that capacity will allow you to eventually get to the point where you can do some problem solving and you can do some great decision making in it all by understanding what your own strengths are. So if I could go back to the previous point and saying, hey, it's about us and not about me. When it comes to me, you have to understand yourself and what you bring to the table, what you bring to the marriage. And understanding even with that, I know for myself, I don't bring perfection. I don't bring the total package. There's, flaws and all, and Maurice loves me with my flaws and all, and I do likewise love him with his flaws and all. And we come together with that, and, the Bible says the two become one. So we're not even, we're a piece of each, other independently, but when we come together, we're one, we're whole, but independently we're not. So I think that's just a great thing to think about when we're thinking about our relationships and whether or not it's about a partnership or perfection. Another key thing to think about when you're analyzing whether or not it's a partnership or a perfection is how to support one another. And supporting one another is clearly just a partnership. It can't be about me if I'm trying to support you. So if I'm supporting somebody, then I am upholding them, I'm believing in them, and helping them along the way. And that's a true partnership in any regard, whether it's marriage or a corporate relationship, or even when it comes to dealing with your parents or dealing with your children, that you support them and you're there for them and you give them your attention, your time, and all of those things lead into that support. I can say, looking back at dealing with my kids, I tell them, even now they're in their 20s, and I still say, hey, I'm your biggest cheerleader. I'm your biggest support. If you need anything, I will be right there for you. And I think that means so much, that I'm not asking them to be perfect. For them to need support from me means that they're not perfect. And they have to be able to acknowledge that, hey, I need help. And we can do that whether that's our child or if that's our parent or if that's our spouse, just acknowledging that, hey, I need help. And I think we've talked about on the show before where, Maurice had leaned up to me and said, hey, you need help. Ask the kids for help. It's okay. They can do their own laundry. They can help wash the dishes and take out the trash and all those other things. Matter of fact, my son, I think, helped cut the grass, not too long ago. So because Maurice wasn't feeling well. So again, looking and leaning for that support helps to build a partnership. Helps to helps us to acknowledge who we are in that partnership and leaning towards one another for that support. And it's not always easy to ask for help. It's not always easy to acknowledge that you don't have it all way together. Let me tell you, it's not easy to say that you need help and that you are looking for that, especially as I said in the beginning at the top of the show that we're taught in school and in corporate America and so many other places that you need to strive for perfection. You need to get an A on that test. You need to be top of your class. You need to do all of these things and do them all well and do them all great. And sometimes that's hard to deal with because it's not always going to be that way. I always tell myself when I was younger that, we all can't get a first place trophy. If we're all running this race, we all can't get first place. Like, I don't care, how close the race is, there's none that really everyone's going to get first place. Yes, we all can take the test and all get 100s. However, to run the race, everyone's not going to get first place. And we have to be okay with that it's okay to come in second place, third place, and learn from that and be okay with it. So these are all the things when it comes to perfection and understanding, like, is it truly, truly okay not to be perfect in your marriage? Is it truly, truly not to be okay? Is it okay not to be perfect in your relationship? Do you really give up 100% of yourself all the time? Do you expect to have a 50-50 relationship where you're giving up 50% and they're giving up 50%? We've talked about that again on the show before, that sometimes it's not that way. Sometimes one spouse is giving up 80 and the other one's giving up 20, or someone's giving up 80 and the other one's giving up 30. Like, it's not always going to even equal out to be 100%. Sometimes it's a little bit less than that and we're not even meeting the mark. And then sometimes it's above that and people are giving so much of themselves. And learning from that and learning that it's okay. And I think that's the part that I want to share with you the most is, even when you're trying in this thing of marriage, in this thing of relationships, that finding the right partner and finding out about yourself are the key things, within your partner. Finding out the key things about your partner will help you move forward, will help you be strong and be able to stand everything that the life will throw your way. So what are some things that you can possibly do with your partner to build better partnerships? Certainly, I've already talked about meeting with them and talking with your partner frequently about, just life. Like, what are your hopes and your dreams? And I understand, like, those things will change. And I think that's the other thing, like, a lot of times we think, we talked about this already, and why do we have to talk about it again? But things change. Life changes. Your viewpoints change. My political stance at one time was different than it is now. And that came with talking with Maurice and things changed. So now I am what I am. And so, and it's okay. So other things you can do are to build a partnership or have some common goals. What are some things that are not independent of yourself, but common goals for that relationship, common goals for that marriage? What are some things that the two of you, or you as a family unit, can lean towards as a goal, as a monthly goal, as an annual goal, as, 10-year goal? Where do you want things to go? And how do you get there? What are the steps that you have to take to arrive at that goal? And what are the benefits that you think you would have of arriving at those goals? Because it's not just about happiness and bliss, but there's so much more that goes along with this thing called marriage and the journey. And, talking about it will be very, very helpful. So other things you can do are to certainly talk to other married people, talk to others who are other parents who are going through what you're going through. I think for me, that was a true help of knowing that I'm not the only one going through this. I'm not the only one that's having these situations or having these types of feelings. And especially if you can get a hold of someone that you can talk to that has gone through it, like not just in it, but has gone through it. They can kind of let you know, hey, it's you can make it as well. I think that's a great thing, because it can be so motivational, and it helps you again with that mindset, because you can sometimes get in a habit of thinking like, oh no, woe is me. But when you get to talk to somebody else that's going through it as well, it's very, very, very helpful. So another example is Maurice and I were very, very active in like the Home and School Association and community organizations for youth. And that helped us to not only make our relationship stronger as husband and wife, but it helped make us stronger as parents as we talk to other parents and realize, hey, my kid is not the only one going through this, is having this difficulty, or my kid, I didn't know that they offered these services and programs for kids. And now I know, and it's because we built those relationships and those partnerships with home and school and with the school district, and with, that opened windows and doors so that we were more knowledgeable. So again, those are some great, I think, great tips for what we have used and gone through as we had with our raising of our kids and in our relationships. So when it comes to relationships, we had didn't have any marriage coaches or anything like that, but we had individuals that we kind of gleaned on here and there, and was like, how can we be more like them in a strong relationship, long lived? Didn't talk to them, but we kind of knew that they were out there and that it existed. So that's part of why we have this podcast, because we want people to know that you can have a long-lived relationship with your spouse, that it doesn't have to end in separation or divorce and whatever. Even if you have times during your relationship that it feels unfruitful, where you don't feel like it's being productive, where you don't feel like it's a partnership, and you don't even feel like it's perfect. You don't feel like it's all about us, and that's okay. And that's why we have the No Fruit podcast, to let you know that it is okay and that you can make it through. And you just have to do a little bit of work. You have to, change your mindset, do a little bit of homework on your own, have some communication, have some patience. One of the fruits is patience. So have some patience with yourself, have patience with your loved one, have patience with those you're in relationship and partnership with. And eventually, believe me, it will come to pass. Things will, that seed that you're planting will sprout out fruit, and things will get better, and you'll be able to reap the benefits of all of your hard work. As again, I said, it has not always been the easiest and most pleasant days. Yes, we've had some glorious, beautiful days, but then there's been days where it was a little bit more troubling and a little more trying. We've talked a lot about that, our ups and downs during the previous shows. But believe me that there are some great days, and we've had some great days, and that they will come. They will come, and you will be able to be so overjoyed when you look back at your fruit, when you look back at all that you have accomplished and how much, when I say accomplished, I mean accomplished in the work that you have done towards your relationship, the work that you have done towards making things better with your spouse, with your family members, all of those things. Like, you'll be able to look back and be overjoyed for the work that you've put in, and then things that come out of it. It will be such a blessing and such a joy to you. And I hope that you'll share with us anything, tips that you may have on how to create a partnership within your marriage. Share with us how you want to create a partnership within any relationship. Just make those comments below. We would be so happy to hear how you are planting those seeds so that you can reap the great harvest. We want to hear all about it. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope that Maurice will be back with us next time on the No Fruit Podcast. Until then, God bless you all.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the No Fruit Podcast, where we bring you fruitful conversations, ripened wisdom, and love that's deeply rooted. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration in their day. Until next time, stay rooted in love, and remember, every seed you plant today shapes the fruit of tomorrow.